Hey, can you tell me your name, please?
Marilyn Bowling.
And Marilyn, thanks for joining us today. What were your years of service when you were with Braniff and various positions that you held?
I started with Braniff in 1958 in September, and I started in the reservation department. From there, I went to a city ticket office position in the computer building. I got bumped back to reservations. I bid an airport and I couldn't get into DFW, so I got a transfer to Seattle, thinking that I would only be there for 3 months during my probation, and then I had enough seniority to get back to Dallas, and they froze the transfers. And I was there for at least a year. After that, I came back to Dallas, and then then I got married.
Oh.
I married Rudy Bowling, and we transferred to Reno, and I worked the ticket office in Reno. And Reno, I worked every position, including the ramp and operations and the ticket counter and everything associated with working at a station. And then we came back to Dallas because we were afraid that, we went to Austin. Rudy got transferred to Austin. I got transferred to San Antonio as ticket counter supervisor because Braniff was not doing well, and we were afraid that we'd get stuck in Reno if something happened. And unfortunately, something did happen because we went into bankruptcy and lost our jobs.
So that was where things were in May of '82,
Yes,
huh?
it was.
After that, so you were living in Reno?
No, we were living in Austin.
You were in Austin at the time, okay.
Yes. I commuted to San Antonio.
I mean, there are worse places to be than Austin. I mean, it's a great city. After the company closed in '82, did you all stay in Austin, or did you make a move, just to try to get back to family, back to Dallas?
I got a job with a travel company in Austin. I worked for them for 6 months and interviewed for a manager position. After I had a really good interview with them, the owner said, I have no intention of giving you the position in Austin, but I'm going to open a travel company in Dallas, and I'd like for you to go there, open the office, and be my manager there. So we moved. That's when we moved back to Texas, and Rudy went to Saudi Arabia.
Well, so before you started working for Braniff in '58, had you flown before that? Before working at Braniff?
Actually, I'd flown one time before that on American Airlines. I bought a ticket to Washington, D.C. to go to my cousin's wedding in Virginia.
Do you remember the flight?
No, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. It's a pretty big memory. It's a big adventure.
Well, the
when
flight
you're off.
was a big adventure. Yes.
Sure.
Yes, I got to Washington, and I had a connection with a bus down into Virginia, and I didn't think about the difference in time zones, and I almost missed my bus.
Do you remember the year of that flight? And that first trip, or how old you were at least?
It was in 1957. And
Okay.
I was 18 years old.
So just before you started working at Braniff.
Yeah.
Or essentially.
Yeah.
When you started at Braniff, obviously, that sends you through a lot of training, and then you probably learned a lot on the job. Do you have any memories about your training?
Yes, we had a 3-week training period, and it was very, very intense. We had about 30 people in our class, and we learned everything. You had to memorize all of the city codes, the flights, the connecting times, how to read no AG, how to compute a fare. It was just very intense. When we graduated, 5 people graduated. Everybody else had been eliminated.
Out of a class of
Out
30.
of a class of 30.
Where was your training conducted at?
It was at Exchange Park.
Okay, so in Dallas.
Yes, in Dallas.
Given you're from the area, did you go home every day, or did you do the training and stay there?
I was at home.
At home, okay. Well, that's great. What were some of your other wonderful memories about working at Braniff?
The people. The people I worked with and our customers. I just thoroughly enjoyed our customers and being able to help them. And, it was just neat. I just, of all the jobs that I have had and all of the positions that I've had in management, working at the ticket counter was my very favorite job of all time.
That's great. Well, I mean, I can tell, and I know you well enough to know that you are very much a people person, and you want to make sure that people are taken care of.
Absolutely. And it was fun.
I seem to remember a story you mentioned about servicing a gentleman and his wife that you had grown up knowing in Oak Cliff, if memory serves me. Tell us about that.
That is correct. It was a young man that I went to junior high and high school with, and he was married to a young woman that I went to grade school and junior high and high school with, and they had 3 daughters, and they were going to Denver for Thanksgiving, and the flights were all full, and he got out to the airport and found out that he did not have a reservation, that the reservation he had was not for that day. He had made it for the wrong day, and the flights were all full. He went to Denver on that flight. I did it. I got him on. I told him, go to the gate, board as fast as you can, sit down, fasten your seatbelt, don't look around, don't look anybody in the eye, and if they say, does anyone, want to get off, you just sit there, because all the flights were oversold.
Oh.
So.
That's wonderful, and I think
you can't do that today, but the people at the airport really did have a lot of control, and they did things that they weren't supposed to do.
There was a similar story that I'm remembering about a gentleman that walked up, and I think he used to serve you ice cream or something when you were a little girl.
Oh, I was working in Reno, and a man walked up to the ticket counter, and before he got there, I knew exactly who he was, and I had not seen him in years. He owns the dime store in the neighborhood in Oak Cliff where I live, and we used to buy all of our school supplies there, and all of our jacks and jump ropes and paper dolls and everything else. And he came up, and I said, "Hello, Mr. Cannon," and he just looked stunned. He had no idea. And I said, "I shopped at your dime store for my whole childhood," and he was really thrilled. And he had a coach ticket back to Dallas, but he went on first class.
Oh, I bet that made their day. And you had a chance to, connect with a lot of different people, especially at that position. Were there any celebrities that you can remember servicing or taking care of?
Well, 2 of them were in Dallas. One of them was Howard Cosell, and the other one was Danny Thomas. Neither were my favorites. My very favorite people that I handled was in Reno, and it was the Oak Ridge Boys. They were absolutely delightful and the nicest people you have ever run into.
Oh, that's wonderful. When you had off time and you got to have a break, some of the perks were getting to have, tickets to travel within the network. Did you ever take advantage of or fly in Braniff's, first infamous November 601 BN?
Yes, it was I made many trips to Hawaii on that airplane. My brother lived there. I was very fortunate to have a place to stay. So I could day trade, and as soon as I could get 4 days off, I was on an airplane to Hawaii and back.
That's great. You just go to work for the day and you end up, instead of going home, you go to Hawaii.
Yes.
That was obviously an iconic plane. Were there other models or liveries that you really enjoyed of Braniff's?
Well, the passes were a tremendous privilege, and I always considered them a privilege, not something that, you know.
I believe you had, I mean, there were rules around that, correct?
Oh, absolutely, there were rules around that. The way you dressed, the way you behaved. But my favorite airplane was the Braniff 707. It was painted in the red and blue paint job. I can't remember the Eldorado, I think. I just love that airplane. I have a model of it now in my house, and it's my favorite of all of them.
That's a wonderful classic livery. Braniff was known for its wonderful paint schemes and designs and, you know, fashion and things. Part of that was able to get people brought in to see all of that was through ad campaigns. Was there an ad campaign that you particularly remember about Braniff?
Yes, when you got it, flaunt it. Pucci just had the best uniforms, in my opinion, of any of our designers. I did not care for the Halston uniform. It was not easy to work in. Pucci was so easy to work in, and the colors were just wonderful.
So it's, you know, obviously when you're working in reservations and things, that's behind the, you know, the scenes. There weren't, you know, probably uniforms for reservations,
no,
right?
There weren't.
But you got reservation. You had.
But when you were at the airport, there were reservations.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
There were reservations.
No, but there were uniforms.
There were uniforms.
Yeah, and they were comfortable. And the Puccis were comfortable.
Yes, especially the later Pucci when we got out of the pink.
Yeah.
And into the blues.
The blue and the green, I
Yes.
think, was the latest one. I think was the green.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Well, I mean, it's wonderful memories. I'm glad, you know, that you were able to share these with us. Is there anything you want to, kind of a favorite thing to wrap up with, or anything else you'd like to share about your time there?
Well, I went to Braniff too after I said I wasn't going to. But I did. My husband had taken a job in Boston, and so when I moved to Boston, I got a phone call asking if I would interview for the station manager job, that they were going to open Boston as the station, and would I interview as the manager. So I told them absolutely. I've taken a job as a travel agent, and they sent somebody up, and I interviewed, and I got the job. Rudy came back to Dallas, and so I called headquarters, and I can't think of his name right now, but I told him I didn't want to leave the company. Could he find something in Dallas for me? And I was transferred back to headquarters, and I took the job as manager of revenue accounting. And it was split in two areas. One was for the travel agencies, and one was for the airlines. So I took over the travel agent section because I was familiar with their accounting and reporting systems.
That makes complete sense. The job as the station manager, I mean, that's a pretty big role.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, that
scared me to death.
I bet. But think of all the positions you held throughout your career, let you understand what was necessary to make that successful.
Yes, but still going to the airport and being a manager was something else. In Boston, they had an appointed manager for every month in the year from all the carriers. And if there was any kind of weather issue or big problem that affected the whole airport, you were kind of in charge of making sure everything was okay. and I got appointed one of the one of the winter months, and that included de-icing, and I had no clue
You're from Texas.
what to do. And I was just scared to death. Fortunately, we didn't have any weather problems during that month, and I didn't have to step up to something that I didn't know about.
Wow. Well, that's a great memory to wrap up on. We appreciate your time and talking to us today. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.